When I was 23, I had been married already for 2 years and attending community colleges off and on for 7 years. And I was making my living as a singing telegram messenger. The agency that I worked for had assigned me to 3 characters. I had the rainbow afro-wigged clown, I had the sexy saloon girl, and I had the female gorilla with a string bikini top and a grass skirt. Each of which had their drawbacks, but the one that I really dreaded was the saloon girl, because more than once I would ring a doorbell and the door would open and I would be mistaken for a stripper. So I decided that it was time to get a degree and get serious about my acting career. My husband, James, and I were thrilled when I was accepted to CalArts because our family lived in California and the school was a feeder for the TV and film industry, so we thought, great, except that they could offer us no financial aid, and we were broke. We were not going to get CalArts tuition out of my singing telegram gig. So I got a job working for Warner Brothers as an accounting assistant on a film that was shooting on the Central Coast of California, which is also where my mother was living at the time. And she was going to be gone for 3 months, pretty much the duration of the shoot. So James and I could live there in her mobile home rent-free while I was making $100 a day, which for me at that time was pretty good. And it was $10 a day more than any of the other assistants were making because I had to be trusted with piles and piles of cash. Essentially, the job was this. Every morning, I would shut myself into the room of a Santa Maria Ramada Inn hotel room with about $16,000 in cash, which I would divide into piles of per diem, drive it to the set, distribute it among the cast and crew, and at the end of the day, the cast and crew would take their per diem back to the Santa Maria Ramada Inn and drink it at the bar. To tell you more about the point of this story, I'm going to need to risk lawsuit and tell you about this movie. So it was inspired, the plot came from a 1992 McDonald's Super Bowl commercial, which the biggest producer in Hollywood at that time, whose name was not Mr. Reelberg, saw this commercial, called up the writers, and said, "Can you turn this into a kids' football movie?" The answer was no. But what the writers said was yes! The script was a mess. They went through about 20 writers, only 6 of whom were credited, and of those 6, one admitted that he was on heroin the whole time. Mr. Not Reelberg was an alum of USC Film School, which at the time was a real old boys network, and so there was a very recent graduate of USC Film School who was appointed as the director of this film. So to recap, we have a story which is a McDonald's commercial, a terrible script, and an inexperienced director. Add on to the steaming heap an embarrassment of riches and waste. The cinematographer was Janusz Kaminski, who had just won the Oscar for Schindler's List. The story was set in Ohio, but they had found a tree in Brazil that they loved, so they spent nearly $10,000 shipping it to the Central Coast. Know what happened to that tree at the end of the shoot? Went into the trash. But I think the most obscene waste that I saw happened nightly at craft services, where trays and trays of gorgeous, perfectly edible food were dumped into the trash, and then intentionally more icky trash was put on top of it to discourage the foraging. Add on to that just sort of general bad behavior of the what happens on location stays on location variety, and we get to the point of my story, which is my own thwarted attempt to fit into Hollywood. I'm just not drawn that way. It's not my tribe. I come from public school teachers, social workers, civil rights activists, people who are more comfortable under the poverty line than above it. I come from front yard gardens and homemade clothing and so many rescue animals and shoestring theater. And so when that director was fired and the shoot moved to Los Angeles and I was not going to be able to make my CalArts tuition, I found that I no longer cared. Now, I have different goals and a degree from a different school. I have a different husband and a different home state. But I am still making my living as an actor. I'm a professional actor living in Longmont, Colorado. And I am able to support my glamorous lifestyle. And I am rarely ever mistaken for a stripper anymore. Thank you.